The broken ship in the dust. The desert wind howled across the old scrapyard, sending clouds of red dust into the dark sky. Elias wiped his oily hands on a rag and looked up at the stars. His small repair shack, built from broken ship parts and rusted metal, stood alone on the edge of the colony. Beside it, his daughter Mara sat on an old crate, her skinny legs swinging. "Papa," she said softly, "why don't the rich people come here anymore?" Elias gave her a tired smile. "They have shiny places and shiny friends. We fix what they throw away, remember?" Mara nodded. She was only 7 but already knew the world was unfair. Her mother had died years ago during the plague. Since then, it had been just Elias and Mara surviving on scraps and broken tech. Then it happened. A flash tore through the sky, followed by a loud, bone-shaking boom. The earth trembled. Mara screamed and jumped into her father's arms. A smoking shape fell from the sky, crashing behind the junk piles at the far end of the yard. Elias pulled out his flashlight. "Stay close, Mara." They walked carefully, pushing aside scrap and old metal plates. When they reached the crash site, Elias stopped. His eyes widened. A sleek alien ship lay buried in the sand, its side torn open. The metal shimmered like liquid silver, pulsing with soft blue lights. Sparks flew from its broken engines. Strange markings glowed on the hull, nothing Elias had ever seen. Then, something moved. From the wreckage, a figure crawled out, tall, graceful, and glowing under the moonlight. She had long white hair, silver blue skin, and golden eyes that seemed to burn. Her left arm was bleeding. She raised a small energy weapon and pointed it at Elias. "Stay back, human," she hissed. Elias raised his hands. "I'm not here to hurt you." The alien woman looked at him, then at Mara. Her gaze softened, but only a little. "You live here?" she asked. Elias nodded. "Yes, my name is Elias. This is my daughter Mara. We're not soldiers, just junk collectors." She lowered her weapon slowly. Her legs shook and she collapsed to her knees. Mara rushed forward. "Papa, she's hurt." Elias ran to the woman's side. She tried to push him away, but she was too weak. Her skin felt warm, almost too warm. "Don't touch my ship," she whispered, "and don't try to remove my armor." "I'm not," Elias said gently. "Let me help you, please." He and Mara carried her carefully to their shack. She said her name was Kale-Ira, and she was from a distant star empire. Her ship had been attacked by space pirates, and she crash-landed here by accident. For 2 nights, Elias gave her shelter. He patched her wounds using old medkits and fed her what little food he had, mostly dry bread and broth. Kale-Ira sniffed it the first time, her nose wrinkling. "This is food?" Elias laughed. "The best junkyard food in this sector." But she ate it all. On the 3rd day, she stood by the broken ship again. She stared at the damage silently. Her elegant fingers brushed over a cracked panel. "I need to leave. My people will come looking." "You won't fly anywhere like this," Elias said, stepping beside her. "But I can fix it." She turned sharply. "You? I've been fixing junk all my life. This isn't junk, but I can try." Kale-Ira crossed her arms. "You may touch the ship, but not the hardcore. Or me. Understand?" Elias nodded. "Got it." From that day, he worked under the hot sun, welding broken parts, cleaning the engines, using scrap from old human ships to repair alien tech. It wasn't easy. Every part sparked differently. Every screw had its own challenge. Kale-Ira watched him silently every day. Sometimes she offered advice. Sometimes she simply sat with Mara, teaching her alien words. And at night, she slept, on the floor near the corner of the shack, her weapon always within reach. But one night changed everything. Elias woke to a strange hum. He walked outside and saw Kale-Ira standing by the ship, her hands glowing faintly. She was whispering something in her language. He didn't interrupt, but when she turned, her golden eyes locked on his. For a moment, the world was silent. No wind, no dust, no scrapyard noise. "You fixed more than metal, Elias," she said. Elias didn't understand what she meant, but when she stepped inside his home without knocking and sat quietly on his bed as Mara slept, he started to realize something strange had begun, something deep, something dangerous, something alien. The desert sun rose slowly over the scrapyard, casting long shadows across piles of rusted metal and forgotten tech. Elias rubbed the sleep from his eyes and stepped out of his shack. The morning was quiet, except for the soft beeping from the half-repaired alien ship. Kalira stood beside it, her silver-blue skin glowing softly under the light, arms folded, face unreadable. For 3 days now she had said little, watching Elias work, watching Mara laugh and play, watching the sun fall and rise again. But today, something had changed. Without a word, she handed Elias a small glowing tool he had never seen before. It was smooth and weightless, and when he held it, the broken wires sparked with new life. "This should help," she said simply. Elias nodded, unsure what to say. He didn't want to ask questions and risk pushing her away. Still, something about her quiet presence made the scrapyard feel less lonely. Each day, Elias worked longer hours. Kalira would sometimes join him, not to fix anything but to sit nearby and observe. When he wiped sweat from his forehead, she tilted her head curiously. When he burned his fingers, she gave him a strange, round capsule that cooled the skin instantly. She was careful not to touch him. Every movement, every word from her followed a rhythm of distance and control. But she was always there, close enough to feel, yet far enough to remain untouched. Mara, on the other hand, adored Kalira. She followed her everywhere, asking questions, braiding the woman's soft white hair, and even showing her the little cloth doll she had stitched from old fabric. Kalira accepted it like it was treasure. Her golden eyes softened when she smiled at the child. Sometimes Elias caught her looking at Mara as if she were something sacred. It made him wonder, was Kalira a mother before? Or had she never known the warmth of family? That night the silence broke. Kalira stood by the fire holding a thin piece of dry bread. She took a small bite, chewed, and frowned. "This tastes like dust." Elias laughed. "It's my famous bread. Mara loves it." "Your child is strange," she said, staring at the sky, "but brave. She takes after her mother," Elias said quietly, his voice growing softer. Kalira looked at him then, a strange emotion crossing her face. She walked into the shack and sat on his bed again, just like the night before. Elias followed, confused. He didn't know what this meant. She sat still, staring at the cracked ceiling. "I touched your bed again," she said calmly. Elias rubbed the back of his neck. "Yeah, I noticed. Is it a problem?" She turned toward him, golden eyes glowing. "For my kind, to enter a male's shelter without invitation and to touch his sleeping place, it is a sign of intent." "Intent?" Elias asked slowly. "Courtship," she replied. "Bonding, claiming." Elias's mouth went dry. "You're saying I'm not asking you to mate," she interrupted sharply. "But I'm letting you know that by our customs your bed now belongs to me. Temporarily." He blinked. "Your customs are intense. Yours are slow," she muttered. The air grew thick between them. Elias couldn't think straight. She was beautiful. More than beautiful, but she was also alien, wounded, and mysterious. Still, she had saved Mara from a falling beam yesterday without hesitation. She had taught the girl to write her name in alien letters. She had repaired his busted water filter without being asked, and now she sat on his bed like she belonged there. Kalira stood and walked to the doorway. "Tomorrow I will help you with the engines." Elias opened his mouth, then closed it. "Okay." The next morning, she was already working before he woke up. She wore a long cloth robe made from human blankets and had tied her hair back. She looked almost normal. For hours they worked side by side. She didn't speak much, but when she did, her voice was soft. Her fingers were precise. her mind sharp. She understood every wire, every connection, like it was a living thing. Later, that day, a group of colony guards appeared. Their boots crunched on the dusty ground and their guns gleamed under the sun. Elias tensed. One of them, a tall man named Reeves, pointed at Kylaira. "That alien's been reported," they said. "She was royalty or something. What's she doing in your junkyard, Elias?" Before Elias could answer, Kylaira stepped forward. "I'm here by choice," she said coldly. "This is my shelter, and this male is under my protection." Reeves laughed. "What, is he your pet now?" Kylaira's eyes flashed. "He is my bond candidate. By my law, I have marked his sleeping place. I stay where he stays." The guards backed off, unsure of what to do. Royal aliens were not to be messed with, even in a trash pile. That night, Elias sat by the fire with Kylaira again. She didn't say much, just stared into the flames. But when Mara curled up in her lap and fell asleep, Kylaira smiled softly and whispered, "Your world is rough, but your hearts are warm." Elias looked at her, and for the first time he wondered, was this more than just repair work? Was something else being rebuilt? Something between them? Elias had seen strange things in his life. Broken drones still speaking, scrap metal moving on its own, even a man who claimed he could talk to rust. But nothing compared to Kylaira. Each day she stayed in the junkyard, her presence grew, stronger, deeper, like she was no longer just a visitor but a part of the place. The broken ship sat quiet now, half repaired. But Elias could see the real change wasn't in the ship. It was in the way Kylaira looked at him, at Mara, and at the sky above their home. Mara had started calling her Kay. It was easier for the child to say. And surprisingly, Kylaira didn't correct her. In fact, she smiled every time Mara called her that. She helped the girl braid her hair, showed her how to sharpen old tools with alien stones, and taught her a soft song, in a language neither Elias nor any human knew. It echoed in the shack like a lullaby from another world. But things were shifting, and Elias felt it. Kylaira began moving her things, small, glowing orbs, a folded cloth that shimmered like water, her energy weapon, closer to his bed. She now slept just an arm's length away, not on the floor anymore, but on a blanket beside his. Her body gave off gentle warmth, like a living heater in the cold desert nights. Elias didn't ask questions, not because he didn't want answers, but because he was afraid of what those answers might mean. One night, while fixing a coolant line on her ship, Kylaira turned to him suddenly and asked, "Why do humans wait so long to bond?" Elias blinked, holding a screwdriver in his hand. "We wait to fall in love." "Love," she repeated, testing the word like a strange fruit. "Is that something that grows with time?" "Sometimes," he said. "Sometimes it hits you like a storm. But either way, it's not something we rush." Kylaira tilted her head. "Among my people, when a female claims a sleeping place, the bond has already begun." Elias chuckled awkwardly. "I guess your people don't believe in dating." She didn't smile. "We believe in survival, in connection, in choosing the right soul." That made Elias pause. He looked at her, not just her glowing skin or strange beauty, but her tired eyes, the quiet strength in her voice, the way she watched Mara like she already belonged to her. There was something honest in her, something that had nothing to do with species or rules. But before he could say anything, a sound echoed across the scrapyard. Hover engines. 3 alien skiffs landed near the edge of the junk pile. Out stepped tall, armored figures, their faces hidden behind silver masks. Kylaira's body stiffened. "They've found me," she said. The leader removed his helmet, revealing violet skin and harsh yellow eyes. "Kylaira of House Celian, you are to return at once. Your delay has caused disturbance in the royal chain." Kylaira stepped forward calmly. "I have claimed a bondmate. I will return only after completing the ritual." The alien leader looked at Elias with disgust. "A human? A junk fixer? This is unacceptable." Kylaira's voice turned cold. "By law, it is my right to choose, and I have chosen." Elias felt the heat of many eyes on him. He wasn't ready for this. Not for alien politics, not for a royal decision, and definitely not for the word bondmate. But Kaelira didn't give him time to think. "You have 3 cycles," the leader said, climbing back into the skiff. "If the human accepts, the bond is legal. If not, she returns in shame and punishment." As the skiffs disappeared into the sky, silence filled the yard. Later, Elias sat by the fire, his hands shaking. Kaelira sat beside him, legs folded, her expression calm. "You used the word chosen," he whispered. "I did," she answered. "Why me?" he asked. "I'm no warrior, no rich man, just a tired father with a toolbox." She touched the edge of his sleeve. "You fixed a ship that others would have scrapped. You shared food even when you had little. You gave warmth to a stranger. You let me sleep beside your daughter and trusted me." Elias looked down. "But I didn't choose you. Not yet." Kaelira's voice softened. "Then choose me. Not for duty, not for law, but because your heart says yes." That night she didn't return to her corner. Instead, she pulled her blanket closer to his and whispered, 3 days. Then we must decide." The stars above blinked silently, like tiny eyes watching. Elias closed his eyes, and for the first time in years, he dreamed of a future that wasn't broken. The nights had grown colder. Wind howled through the broken metal towers of the junkyard, and even Mara had started sleeping closer to her father. But now, another body shared their warmth, Kaelira. She didn't sleep across the room anymore. Her blanket was right beside Elias's, sometimes even touching his. Her heat was steady, like a soft fire that never burned, but never left either. Elias had stopped asking questions. His mind was too full, and his heart too unsure. But her closeness was no longer a question. It had become a quiet fact. On the 4th night, Elias couldn't sleep. He lay on his side, eyes open, watching shadows crawl along the metal roof. He heard Kaelira's breathing, calm, deep. Then suddenly she moved. He felt her shift under the blanket, felt the brush of her hand near his. And then, her fingers slowly touched his. He turned toward her, and in the dim glow of the emergency light, their eyes met. "You're shaking," she whispered. Elias nodded. "I don't know what I'm doing anymore." Kaelira moved closer. "You don't need to know everything. You only need to feel what's true." Her voice was soft, careful, almost gentle. Elias didn't pull away. Her hand rested lightly on his chest where his heart beat like a trapped bird. "I haven't shared a bed since my wife," he said, voice low. Kaelira nodded. "I haven't shared breath with another since I left my world. You are the first I touched. Willingly." For a long time there was only silence. Then, without speaking, she leaned her head against his shoulder. She didn't demand anything. She didn't try to take more. She just stayed there. A queen in exile sleeping beside a junkyard mechanic. The next morning, Mara found them like that, arms tangled under the blanket, heads resting close. She didn't say anything. She only smiled and brought them leftover bread with some boiled water. "Mama used to say love looks like this," she whispered, giggling. Kaelira didn't correct her. That day, Kaelira didn't go to the ship. Instead, she helped Elias cook. She stood awkwardly near the stove, trying to understand how to heat water using a fire instead of plasma coils. She nearly burned the pot, but when she finally made her first cup of bitter root tea, she offered it to Elias like it was a royal gift. He drank it even though it tasted like old socks. They laughed. It was strange, how easy it was becoming. She no longer felt like a visitor. The way she picked up Mara when she tripped, the way she cleaned tools before Elias needed them, the way she sat beside him during meals, it was like she had always belonged, but peace never lasts. That night, as the stars blinked above, Elias stepped outside for air. He needed to clear his head. When he returned, he saw Kaelira standing near the doorway, alert. Her eyes were sharp, her weapon in hand. "What is it?" Elias asked. She pointed to the shadows. "We're being watched." Before he could move, a flash of movement darted across the edge of the junkyard. Someone had been spying on them. Elias grabbed his flashlight, but Kaelira pulled him back. "Don't chase. They've already seen enough." "Who was it?" Elias asked. "Probably a scout from the alien council. They want to see if I truly chose you, or if I'm just hiding." Elias looked down. "Are you hiding?" She stepped closer. "I was, but not anymore." Later that night, Kaelira sat beside him, her knees drawn close. "They will come again," she said. "They'll ask why I sleep beside a human. Why I haven't returned to my house. Why I let your child call me Mama. And I will say this, because I choose this over power." Elias looked at her. "And if I don't say yes?" She closed her eyes. "Then I return in shame. They will strip my name, they will bind me, maybe worse, but I will not lie. My heart has already crossed the line." For a while, neither spoke. The fire cracked softly between them. Elias finally said, "I'm afraid." Kaelira smiled. "So am I, but we can be afraid together." That night they lay under the same blanket, not just for warmth, not just for law, but for something growing, quietly, gently, like a seed in dry soil finally feeling rain. And when Kaelira whispered, "I dreamed of this as a child," Elias asked, "Of what?" "Of sleeping safely," she said, "next to someone who sees me, not what I am, but who I am." He held her hand, and for the first time since the war stole everything, Kaelira felt human. The air felt heavier than usual that morning. The wind carried no songs from the desert birds, and even the buzzing old machines in the junkyard sounded quieter. Elias noticed it the moment he stepped outside. Kaelira was already awake, standing near the edge of the yard, her back straight, her long white hair flowing behind her. She wasn't watching the sky. She was waiting for it. Mara clung to Elias's side, sleepy-eyed. "Why is she so still, Papa?" Elias looked at Kaelira's tense form. "Something's coming." Within minutes, the sky darkened. A sharp hum vibrated through the air, followed by the roar of descending engines. 3 elegant alien cruisers cut through the clouds and hovered above the junkyard like silent predators. Then, slowly, they landed. Their armor shimmered like polished moonlight, and outstepped tall alien figures in long black cloaks, their golden masks hiding their faces. Kaelira didn't move. One of them stepped forward. He removed his mask, revealing dark violet skin and piercing blue eyes. "Kaelira of House Celian," he said, voice echoing like thunder. "You have been called back. Your absence breaks the right of lineage. You know the cost." Elias stepped beside her before thinking. She's not ready to leave. The alien noble barely looked at him. "This is not your matter, human." Kaelira raised her hand gently. "He speaks for me now." A wave of gasps came from the other aliens. The leader narrowed his eyes. "You dare say he is your speaker?" Kaelira stood tall. "By bond. Custom, I claimed his shelter. I accepted his child into my care. I've slept beside him 3 cycles. That is enough. The bond has begun." The leader's face twisted in frustration. "He hasn't accepted it, it's not official." Kaelira's voice was calm. "Then give him time." "How much?" 3 more nights." The leader stared at Elias. "If he says no, you will return in chains. You know this." Kaelira nodded once. "I do." The noble pointed a long finger at Elias. "And you, human, know what you risk. This is not romance. This is royal law. If you agree, your life is tied to ours forever. If you refuse, she will lose her name and place. Choose wisely." Without another word, the aliens turned, entered their ships, and rose into the sky. The junkyard went quiet again. Elias sat on an old crate, rubbing his face. Mara hugged his leg tightly. Papa, what does this mean? Kaelira knelt beside the child. It means your father has a choice, a heavy one. That evening the sun painted the sky in orange and red, and Elias sat alone by the fire. Kaelira walked toward him, holding a cup of warm tea she had made, better this time, not as bitter. She sat beside him without speaking. I never asked for this, Elias finally said. Kaelira nodded. Neither did I. I was fixing a ship, that's all. I didn't mean to change your life. She looked at the fire. You didn't change it. You gave it meaning. He looked at her, tired and unsure. You're from royalty. I'm just a mechanic. You're a father, she said. You're kind, strong, honest. That is more rare than royal blood. Elias didn't answer. The words sat too heavy in his chest. Later, Mara placed her little doll in Kaelira's lap. You can have this, if you stay. Kaelira's lips trembled. She hugged the doll tightly. Thank you, little one. That night Elias lay awake in bed. Kaelira lay beside him, facing the ceiling, her fingers lightly brushing his. Do you want me to leave? She asked. No, he whispered. Do you love me? She asked next. I don't know, he said honestly, but I care, more than I thought I could again. She turned toward him. That's enough, and for now. The next 2 days passed like soft dreams. They cooked together, repaired the last parts of the ship, and even fixed a broken water pump for the nearby village. Word had spread. People whispered of the alien noble who had chosen a human junker. Some came to stare, some came to trade, hoping to see the strange bond up close. But on the third night the wind carried a familiar hum. The alien ships returned. Kaelira stood outside the shack, her robe fluttering. Elias joined her. The same noble stepped down. It is time. What is your answer, human? Elias looked at Kaelira. She stood tall, but her hand was shaking. Not from fear, but from hope. He took her hand in his. I accept her bond. The noble raised an eyebrow. By choice? By choice, Elias said. By heart. The noble said nothing. He turned and walked away. No chains, no shame, only silence. As the ships disappeared, Kaelira leaned her head against Elias's shoulder. Mara ran out and wrapped her arms around them both. They stood there, the three of them, under the stars. No longer strangers, no longer broken. Something whole was finally beginning. Rain was rare in the desert, but that morning, the sky cracked, open and let down a soft, steady drizzle. The drops tapped gently against the metal roofs of the junkyard, making music out of scrap. Mara danced barefoot in the mud, laughing, spinning with her arms wide. Kaelira watched her from the doorway. A thick blanket wrapped around her shoulders. Her golden eyes followed every movement like a protector, like a mother. Something had changed since Elias accepted the bond. It wasn't spoken, but it was felt in every small gesture, every warm look, every shared silence. Elias stood beside her, sipping hot tea from a cracked cup. You've grown close to her, he said quietly. Kaelira didn't turn. She welcomed me first. Before you did. She sees you as family. I know, Kaelira said. And that terrifies me. Elias looked at her. Why? Kaelira took a deep breath. Because I've never been anyone's family before. My life was politics, rules, titles. We were trained not to get attached. Even our own blood felt like rivals. And now, this little girl calls me Kay and hands me broken dolls like they're treasures. Elias smiled faintly. That's because they are. Mara ran toward them then, soaked and grinning. Come play with me, Kay. Kaelira looked down at her robe. I'm not meant to play. You are now, Mara said. You're mine. Papa said so. That single sentence hit Kalira like a bolt through the chest. She knelt down and let Mara pull her into the rain. They spun together in the puddles, laughing like old friends. Elias watched, something stirring inside him, something gentle and new. Later, as they dried by the fire, Mara leaned her head on Kalira's arm and asked, "Will you stay forever?" Kalira hesitated. "If your father lets me." Mara. "Round. Why does he get to choose?" "Because he's the leader of this home." Mara looked up at Elias. "Then I choose too." Elias knelt beside them. "You do?" Mara nodded seriously. "Mama once told me, love isn't just between two people. It's what we build together. I want Kay in our family. I want her as my mother." Kalira's lips parted, but no words came out. Tears, clear and human, slid down her glowing cheeks. She had seen war. She had faced exile. She had stood before royal councils, but nothing ever made her heart ache like the small voice of a child asking to be hers. Elias placed a hand on Kalira's back. "She's already yours, you know. We both are." The next morning, a visitor arrived, a rare one. It was old. Manjarev from the outer colony, riding his creaky hover bike. He had gray hair, one cybernetic eye, and a mouth full of opinions. He parked awkwardly near the front of the yard, looked around and shouted, "Is it true? Did you really bond with a space princess?" Elias chuckled. "Something like that." Jarev squinted at Kalira, who stood calmly beside a broken engine. "You don't look like a princess." "I'm not anymore," she said simply. "Well," Jarev grumbled, scratching his chin. "You picked a strange home, but I'll admit, this place looks warmer than the palace." He dropped a crate full of old tech and wires. "Payment. You fixed my son's drone last year. Guess I owe you." As Jarev left, others came too. People who once avoided Elias's place now arrived with tools, old engines, even fresh vegetables. Word had spread fast. Not just about Kalira, but about the bond. About a royal woman choosing a poor human and living with him in a scrap hut. Some came to gossip, but most came to see what love looked like when built from nothing. And then came the council's final message. A small drone floated down from the sky, blinking. Kalira took it gently and pressed her hand to it. A voice spoke from within, cold, formal. "Bond accepted, status completed, title removed, status exiled. No further communication authorized. House Celian no longer recognizes Kalira as heir or blood." The message ended. Elias waited for her to cry, but she didn't. She stood still, quiet. Then she turned to him and whispered, "I've never felt more free." That night, Mara crawled into the bed with them, arms wrapped around Kalira's neck. "I had a bad dream," she said. Kalira held her tightly. "You're safe now." Elias reached across and rested his hand on Kalira's. "We all are." And there they stayed, the three of them under the patched metal roof, no longer afraid of the rain, no longer waiting for ships to come take them away. A mechanic, an alien outcast, and a little girl who chose love. Night fell like a soft blanket over the junkyard, but it did not bring silence. The fire crackled gently, casting orange light over Elias, Kalira, and little Mara, who sat close together on a pile of patched blankets. The stars above seemed brighter than usual, as if the galaxy itself was watching. The ship Kalira had once crashed in, now fully repaired, stood at the edge of the yard, silent and gleaming. But she had no plans to leave. Her place was no longer among stars filled with titles and power. Her place was here, with a man who fixed broken things and a child who saw her as whole. Elias held a thin piece of string in his hands, tying it carefully around a pair of old metal rings they'd found in a crate. "They're not much," he said, "but they'll do." Kalira took one of the rings and turned it between her fingers. "On my world, we bond with markings burned into the skin." Elias raised an eyebrow. "Sounds painful." She smiled. Softly. "It is, but it's meant to be. It reminds us that love leaves a mark. He looked at her for a long time, then placed the ring in her hand. Then let this leave one too, but the good kind. Mara jumped to her feet. Can I say the words now, Papa? Please? Elias chuckled. All right, go ahead. Mara stood tall on a crate, her small voice proud. By Earth rules and junkyard tradition, she began, I now pronounce you at Mama and Papa forever. Kyleera laughed, a sound so rare and beautiful it made Elias's chest tighten. She leaned down and let Mara place the ring around, her finger clumsy but full of love. Then Kyleera took the second ring and placed it on Elias's finger herself. Her hands were shaking. I have no house anymore, no rank, no power, but I have you. That is enough. Elias squeezed her hand gently. You fixed more than your ship here. You fixed something I thought was lost forever. He looked up at the stars. I do. Under these alien stars, I do. They embraced a slow and quiet moment. No grand audience, no music, just the wind whispering through metal towers and Mara clapping joyfully behind them. The next few weeks passed in peaceful rhythm. The junkyard, once forgotten and lonely, became a place people visited with curiosity and respect. Some brought broken machines, others brought children just to meet the alien woman who chose to stay among humans. Kyleera treated them all, with quiet grace, offering help, food, or simply a place to sit and listen. She began building a new section beside the shack, using pieces of her own ship. A small space, circular and warm, filled with light and soft cloth. For Mara, she said. She deserves a room of her own. Elias watched her work with wonder. The once cold warrior now hummed softly as she worked, her hands careful, her movements filled with care. And Mara followed her everywhere, calling her Mama K without hesitation, clinging to her like roots to soil. One night, as the stars blinked above, Elias sat outside while Kyleera fixed a small transmitter. You could still call them, he said. Your people, even if they don't answer. Kyleera paused. I could, but I no longer need their voice to feel whole. Elias looked at her. You sure? She nodded. I have a new house now, a new name even. Kyleera, Mara's mother, Elias's bondmate. That's enough. He smiled. I never thought my life would look like this. Neither did I, she said. But I'm glad it does. The wind blew softly that night, and the stars seemed to blink slower, as if at peace. Kyleera leaned her head against Elias's shoulder and Mara dozed off in his lap, holding her small cloth doll tightly. Elias whispered, You ever think about the day you crashed here? Kyleera laughed quietly. I thought I was going to die. My ship was burning and I landed in the middle of a trash world. Hey, Elias said, pretending to sound offended. I mean it kindly, she said. This trash world gave me everything I never knew I needed. They sat like that for hours, wrapped in each other's presence. Not rich, not powerful, but real. And under alien stars, in a dusty old junkyard on the edge of nowhere, a new family lived. A father with a healing heart, a daughter with a big smile, and an exiled alien woman who once knew only rules, now finally knowing love.